Well, good evening, everybody. It is a pleasure to be here. And today we are going to talk about behind the behavior and what is causing all these crazy things to happen to us. Like Debbie said, I am from the Geriatric Behavioral Health Unit at Princeton, and it's a wonderful unit where we try to help seniors 65 and older who are experiencing these behaviors that are not necessarily normal for them, and especially not normal for their families. So what exactly are behaviors? They're a manner or a way of acting, not necessarily normal for them or the person experiencing them, but they are the way that we behave. An observable activity in a human or animal, and it's the response to an internal or external stimuli, the action or reaction to something in a given circumstance. So, pain, confusion, fear, loss, these are the things that may be difficult behaviors in older adults. But what we need to realize is that every person's reality is somewhat different, and every person's perception of that reality is real. When someone exhibits a difficult behavior, there's always something behind it. And what I try to tell people and our staff is you have to become your own private investigator and find out what happened before, what caused this behavior, and why it happened. It could be a many different reasons why it happened. It's not always anger or aggression that causes behaviors. Sometimes it's I'm hurting and I can't tell you that I'm hurting. So it comes out to be that I'm angry. And there's no magic answer or intervention for this. For instance, we had a gentleman a few months ago who came to our unit from a nursing home because he hit someone, a staff member. They thought that he was being aggressive because when they tried to give him his bath, he refused. What we found once he got there was when we did an x-ray, he had a fracture on his shoulder. So it wasn't that he was being aggressive. He was trying to tell them, don't touch me here because it hurts. So it wasn't his fault, but here's the catcher. He had fallen. And he had not told anybody that he'd fallen. No one witnessed that he had fallen. So the fracture had been there a while. It had started to kind of heal itself, but the problem was it hadn't healed totally. So he was aggressive to the point where he didn't want them to touch it because it hurt. So understanding their perception is the first step toward a solution. We always try to tell people. So here's some possible things to investigate. Medical conditions and medication changes. If you notice that a person has recently been to the doctor and there's been a change in medication, therefore there has been a change in their behavior, think about it. It could be the medication. So what you should do is call the doctor and say, hey, you know what, you gave us this new medicine. And it may be the new medicine, it may be the new medicine's reaction to the old medicines and how the cocktail is possibly working. But whatever it is, there's an adverse reaction to it. And it is impacting the way this person is behaving. The solution could be the dosage. It could be taking the medicine out of the cocktail altogether. It could be when you give it. Sometimes it may be simply as, let's give it to them at bedtime, or let's give it to them first thing in the morning. But you've got to notice that it's the medicine altogether. It could be another medical issue altogether. You know, sometimes when we go to the doctor, we have so many things that we want to tell them that if we don't have a list, we don't tell everything. When I used to take my grandmother, the first thing she would say is, oh, everything's fine. And I'm like, we just had 20 minutes of moaning and groaning in the car. It is not fine. And she would say, he didn't have time for all that. And I'm like, well, that's why we're here. So that's the thing. We have to be advocates for people when we take them to the doctor. Make sure that we know what's going on with them. My grandfather, on the other hand, would have this long list. And I've been on www.webmd.com, Doc, and you change this medicine and it has all these adverse reactions, so I just didn't take it, which is why we're back at the doctor. So make sure that you know what the root of the problem is. And for some people, it's just pain. And it may be that they're like, my grandfather just didn't take the medicine. Could be environmental issues, loss of control. This is one we find with nursing homes a lot because there's a change in the residents. They're not at home anymore. They've lost control of where they are. They're now being told when they eat, when they take a bath, who they socialize with, and these are people I don't even know. So yes, the behavior is going to change. I used to work in a nursing home. I would see a behavior change if there was a roommate situation that changed. Why did you put them in here with me? I have never liked her. But you sit with them every evening when you have dinner. I don't like her. I don't want her in my room. Okay, sorry, that was my fault. We recently had a lady who said, I told her that if I had to wake up to Fox 6 News at 5 o'clock one more morning, I was gonna hit her. Well, guess what? Yeah, Fox 6 News was on, and then she was on my unit by 11 o'clock. So we have to take into consideration all the things that are happening in their environment. We also have to take into effect psychiatric issues, hallucinations, depression, paranoia, and anxiety. And let me say this about some of the psychiatric issues. I always try to tell families, if the hallucination is not bothering anybody, let it play out. If the children in the garden are having fun, and they're having fun watching the children in the garden, let it be. It's only when it becomes a danger to themselves or others that we should be concerned. And that's what the doctors are going to tell you. Let it play out. Now, paranoia, oh, that becomes serious because I'm not taking that medicine because it's not the pink pill I take at home. That's when we have an issue. Or I'm not eating that because I saw you put that poison in it and you've lost 20 pounds. That's when we have to work on the psychiatric issues. And depression, of course, speaks for itself because this can go on and patients will not only lose weight, but other mental issues will play into effect, and they can cause medical issues. So every behavior has a purpose or a cause, and the mystery is to find it. Typical behaviors are wandering. On our unit, it's the constant, I gotta leave, I gotta get out of here. I'm not crazy like the rest of these people. Striking out, crying. I don't know why they left me here. My children just don't love me anymore. And not eating or sleeping, and of course the refusal to take meds, and on our unit, refusal to eat because this doesn't look like the stuff that I cook at home. When you have these behaviors, you have to find out what really is the cause. Now, wandering and pacing, that's another one. If they're not being intrusive and you have a contained space where they can wander or pace, not really bothering anything, not causing a threat to themselves or others, not so much of a problem. It's when they get out of the contained space and you can't find them, that's when it becomes a problem. That could also be a symptom of sundowning, depending on the time of day. So that's why you have to put your detective hat on and say, when is mom sundowning the most? Or when is she wandering the most? Like I said, on our unit, especially in a nursing home, they don't want to be there. So they're going to attempt to leave all the time because they don't feel like they belong there. We had a lady who, 3 o'clock, got to go get my kids. They're going to be waiting for me. I don't want them sitting there thinking that I abandoned them. Redirection always worked. Your husband called. He's going to pick up the kids today, and they're going to meet you here about 4:15. By 4:15, she's forgotten all about it. It was just seeing that clock at 3 o'clock and triggering that she had to go pick up her kids. So those are other things. Crying, medication, just find out what's happening. Maybe at a certain time of the year, I'm thinking about a lost loved one. Eating, not eating and sleeping, or overeating. Those are things that we have to find out what's going on and what's causing it. So review what happened before the behavior. Now, let me tell you this. In a nursing home, generally the population is more women than men. So when a new man comes into the nursing home, there's going to be some different behavior from the females. Everybody wants the new man to sit at their table during bingo, during lunch, during dinner. And there's going to be some aggressive behavior from those females. You gotta figure out what that behavior is coming from. And generally, it's because this new man. If there's something or someone different, that's the thing. The one other thing is I tell them, don't change the routine. Because when you're in a facility, assisted living, nursing, they look forward to bingo on Tuesday. So you can't say, we're gonna have a meeting in the general hall at 3 o'clock on Tuesday. Oh no, because that's bingo time. And you will have some angry people if you don't have bingo. So keep routines simple. If there was a change in location of something, you know, if you're taking someone to the doctor and they know that Dr. Smith's office has always been on Highway 31 in the same place and you're going somewhere different, get ready for a come apart in the car because we're not going to the same place. And I hate when people tell their loved ones they're going to the hospital to visit someone and then they bring them to our unit and kind of leave them. Because then they're like, I came to see Nancy. Where is she? Where is my daughter? Well, guess what? You didn't come to see Nancy, and your daughter will be back tomorrow. So you can't deceive them in that way. Is there a change in the medication? We talked about that. And can this emotional trigger be identified? When I first started on the unit, there was this lady that I used to love to talk to every morning. She seemed to be the sweetest lady there that we had on the unit. Well, one morning I came in and she was yelling to the top of her lungs. Ah! And I was thinking, what have they done to her? So I go in, I'm like, Miss So-and-so, what's the matter? It's me, what's wrong? And she looked at me and she said, you act like you don't know somebody that's having a baby. And I go, okay, yes, ma'am. I'll see you in a little bit. And I go, what is that all about? And they said, her daughter came in last night and told her that her granddaughter had given birth to twins. So the emotional trigger was that her granddaughter had given birth. By lunchtime, I was on the unit. She said, baby, can you take me to the nursery so I can see my twins? I was like, okay, yes, ma'am. No, I can't take you off the unit, but we'll try to get pictures of those babies for you in just a little while. The emotional trigger. And I didn't think anybody wanted to live through labor pains, but I guess you do. Aggression is a form of communication and not necessarily a defensive behavior. Always remember that. We have some patients with dementia who cannot always voice or put into words that they are in pain. It may come out as what we call word salad. So you've got to figure out, you may touch them in a certain place, and if they jump back, then you know to probably get an x-ray or try to figure out what's going on. But it's not always defensive. It's defined as unprovoked or hostile attitude toward a person or thing, but it's not always that way. So that's why you have to put that private detective hat on again. And it is perceived as a threat, but you have to remember, and this is what we tell our staff, never, ever approach someone from behind. Even though you're saying to them, Miss Smith, Miss Smith, Miss Smith may not can hear. So when you go to Miss Smith and you touch Miss Smith and you get hit, it's kind of your fault. And that's what we try to tell them. Miss Smith wasn't being aggressive. She wasn't even angry. She just didn't hear you. So don't always take aggression as a form of a defensive behavior. It's just a form of communication, and sometimes they didn't understand what you were trying to say. The way we work at diffusing episodes, we have what we call secure training on our unit. And everyone who works on our unit has to go through this training. The first thing we tell people is, you remember that you are the same one. Remain calm and speak softly to this person. Never yell, unless of course they can't hear. Now, I got reported to administration recently because I was talking to one of our patients and asking him if he wanted more water to drink. And the lady said that I was being, I can't remember what she said, but I was yelling, but he can't hear. So I was saying to him, would you like more water? And he just kept looking at me, and I kept saying, more water. Would you like more water? Finally, he nodded his head yes, but she thought that I was just being so over-animated, and finally we explained to her he couldn't hear, and that's why. So remain calm, speak softly. Listen to what the person is saying to you. If they're trying to say, I don't want to sit by Miss Jones because she is the crazy lady, she scares me because she yells out, I'm not accustomed to that. That's what they're trying to say. On our unit, it's mixed. Everybody's 65 or older, but some people are more cognitive than others. So we try not to put everyone in the same day room to do groups at the same time. Some people will yell out for no reason. That can be scary. So we try to make the text aware and have them listen to what people are saying. If they are saying that that person scares me, keep them separated. If the person is saying, I don't want to sit next to them during dinner, don't place them next to each other. Control the environment. If you have a wanderer, give them a limited space. Don't say you have to stay in this room. Maybe give them 2 or 3 rooms that they can wander in and out of, because they're going to have to do that. There's not a magic pill or an app for that. So you have to give them space to wander. Take time and give them their space. When we have people who are angry and have to work out their aggression, we always give them their space. It's usually 2 or 3 of us. We're talking, trying to calm them down, but we always give them their space. And it's always 2 of us when they're angry, because you know you don't want to get clocked. That's not a good feeling. And I always tell them, I can be hit, I can be kicked, I just don't like spit. I can't, there's just something about it. And always keep communication simple. You never want to give a person with dementia too many choices. Try to not give them any choice. Like, for instance, would you like to go with me to play bingo? Not, would you like to play bingo or cards? Too many choices. It's time for dinner. Not would you like to have dinner. So keep communication simple. Acknowledge how they feel. I know that you're upset. I'm sorry that you don't like to sit next to Miss Jones at dinner. I'm going to try to remember that next time and not make her sit at the same table with you. But for right now, if you would just calm down and have your dinner, I would so appreciate it. And then Miss Jones is over there. She's eating her dinner. You'll eat. If you just eat, everything will be fine. And it won't happen again, I promise. This is the thing that my mom could not understand. Never argue. You're never going to win. Because you have to remember, their perception of reality is real. Those children playing in the garden, you can't see them, but they are real. Let them play until they get tired and they're gone home. Think of ways to change focus. This is really good for those people who are trying to escape or trying to get out of where you don't want them to be, the elopement people on our unit. And I have to say this, we put our high elopement people in these bright yellow t-shirts, and one got out a few weeks ago, and we're headed down to 6 West. And one of the nurses saw him, and they had this bright yellow shirt with Princeton on it, and she was like, "Where are you going?" "Oh, I've got to get to work." And she said, "But your job is right around the corner. Come on, let me show you." So he ended right back on the unit. He was like, "Oh, man." So you have to think of ways to redirect. And if that means taking their mind off of whatever's going on, you know, like the lady at 3 o'clock who had to pick up her children, your husband's going to get them today. Don't worry about it. Mainly create an atmosphere of security and safety. And that is not just by making sure the door is locked, but by making sure that they understand that you're friendly and you're warm. The funny thing is, I have a sister, she's not a hugger, I'm a hugger, and she's like, "You let those people hug you, they're in the hospital, they have germs." I'm like, "You teach 4th grade. What's the difference?" Ooh. So we have the same situation. Mine are just a little taller. So make sure that they understand that you care about them. And if they come and hug you, you may get a little slob, but you can wash your clothes. So, one thing that I want to make sure of, there is a handout on your table. It has a list on one side, and the list has symptoms, causes, and interventions or treatment. We use this a lot on our unit. And then on the back side of that is this a problem behavior that needs to be fixed? If any of you have ever seen Teepa Snow, this came from her website. She is excellent. And she kind of says what I feel. If it's not bothering anybody, let it play out. If it is, these are some things you need to do to investigate and figure out a solution for the problem.